Okay, so now we're going to start with the FastTrack Music Theory, and hopefully it'll work out okay. They're all the PDF. This is all one PDF, and I put that up in the file section so you can follow along, because what you're going to see here is probably going to be really small to follow. You got that? So download the PDF, and then you can, if you print it out, I think it's 39 pages. I think. They're all numbered anyways. It's about 39 pages. And, yeah, so you can print it out so you can write on it. Because you can't write on a PDF normally. And then follow along with the video, because if you don't, I might be saying things in the video that aren't on the paper. Okay? So just make sure you do that. Okay, let's go with the FastTrack Music Theory. Page 1. Now I'm going to bring it up there so you can see a bit better. Okay, lesson 1, note names. Okay, 7 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And those notes are, where'd my pen go? Those notes are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You only need to know 7 notes to do music. No matter where we start on the scale, we always go back. Let me show you. So if we start on C, this is a C. You see 2, wherever you see just 2 black notes on a piano keyboard, then that first note is always C here. So if we go C, D, E, F, G, well, what do we do after the G? Well, we just go back to the beginning and go A, B, C. You see? So we got the full scale. C, D, E, F, G. Shoot over back to the beginning, you got A, B, C. So 7 notes. It's really important to remember the 1st, the 4th, and the 5th. You'll need that for your chords later on when we get into the scales. Now the reason I'm showing it to you on a piano keyboard is because you can visualize it much better on the keyboard than you can on the banjolele fretboard. We will be going to the banjolele fretboard after I show you why the music works the way it does, which is easier to do on the keyboard. So please bear with me as we go through this. Obviously, I'm not teaching you piano. I'm teaching you music theory. This hopefully is going to help you a lot, because when I was growing up, I started music lessons at 9, and I'm 66 now, so I'm not young. And I struggled for a long time understanding why music acts the way it does. But once you get the patterns, it's almost like math, which I'm not very good at. But once you get the patterns, life gets easier. Hopefully, my knowledge passed on to you will make your life easier in learning the music theory. Okay, so we've done the A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we know the 7 notes. But a complete chromatic scale is 12 notes. 12. That's because we add, chromatic scale goes by half steps. So these black notes are considered half steps. So half, if there's a black note in between from one note to the next, is a whole step. But from C to C sharp is a half step. In England and Europe, I think they call them half tones. But here in the West, I'm from Quebec, so I'm a little weird. So we call them half steps and whole steps. Okay, so with the 12, now chromatic scale, if it's a sharp, oh, you can't see that. If it's a sharp, it's going to go up 1/2 step. Okay, so if I'm going up half a step from C to the first black note, that's C sharp. But if I go down from D to that same key here, that same black key, then all of a sudden this is a D flat. So C sharp and D flat are the same note. Got that? Now some people say, well, always remember if you're going up it's a sharp, and if you're going down it's a flat, but it depends on what key signature you're in. So that's not a hard and fast rule. But to find the flat of D, yeah, you go down half a step. Now what happens when you come to something like this, between 3 and 4, which is E and F? There's no black note. There's no black note. So that's your half step, because there's no black note in between. So E and F, and here's another one, B and C, have no black note. There's no black note there. So if there's no black note, that means they're only half steps. So every time you see an E, you know F is right away. Every time you see a B, you know C is right beside it. Now you may not be playing a plain C. You might be doing a C sharp or something, but it doesn't matter. You know that when you're looking at your fretboard, that E and F are always together, B and C are always together. There's never in any music ever a whole step. There's no black key. Got it? So that makes up, if we count them all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That makes 12 notes total for the chromatic scale. Diatonic scales that we usually use, are made up of 7 notes and the octave. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. C is the octave. Octave. Now, oct comes from the Latin, I believe, which means 8. So really all you're saying is the 8th note is the same as the first. An octave is exactly 12 notes, 8 notes higher. So, like if you're singing and you sing somewhere, that's 1 octave. That's exactly 1 octave. A lot of times, especially in French Quebec, which is most of Quebec, they'll do do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. But I didn't learn it that way. I learned it the English way, which is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. Now, as we said before, each note in the scale is given a number. You saw that before when I said learn your numbers, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then, of course, this is 8, which is the octave, which is 1 again. We're starting back at 1. But 1 is always your root. This is your 4th, and this is your 5th. It's important to know this, especially the 1, 4, and 5, because those are your main chords in any song you're going to be playing. Not C, F, and G, but 1, 4, and 5. And we'll show you that later when we get to the circle of 5th. But remember, try and remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the scales that we're going to be doing. In the old days, they marked it like this, with the Roman numerals 1, 4, 5, and then your octave. Number 2, 3, 6, and 2, 3, and 6 are always minor chords, and 7 is usually added to bring you back to the first. So say you're saying C, F, and G. Your G a lot of times will have a G7 on it. It'll go like G7. You see that? And that usually means that it's bringing you back to the first the first root of the chord of the scale. So C, F, and G are the major chords, the three major chords in the key of C, and they represent 1, 4, and 5. 4 is subdominant, 5 is dominant. You don't have to remember that, just so you know. 2, 3, and 6 are always minor. We'll show you how to do major chord and a minor chord later on. There are many songs which use only 3 major chords in it. Others may add minor chords in the song progression, but later we'll learn about chord progressions, okay? Country music has often been characterized as 3 chords and the truth. The old, that was by Howard Holland. He wrote that in 1950, because the old school country music, they just stuck with those 3 chords. A lot of the newer stuff is adding their minors and stuff, but your good old basic chords are 1, 4, and 5. Same with any like nursery rhymes, any basic song, you know. Okay. We mentioned the Nashville numbering system again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Always know your 1, 4, and 5 for your major chords. Because if you want to transpose, say you're singing, trying to sing a song in the key of C and it's just way too high and you can't get it. Well, you can transpose, which we're going to learn at the end of the course. Transpose it down to, say, a G. Well, if you're in a G, well, then you have to know what your 4 and 5 are in that scale, so you can just switcheroo it, you know. I'll show you that. Don't get too excited. Okay, by using the Nashville number system, studio musicians are able to change the key of a song that a particular singer needed without having to rewrite the whole song. The Nashville numbering system made it much easier to transpose any song into another key if needed. But like I said, we'll talk about transposing later. But not everyone sings in the same key. That's why you'll always hear, you ever hear a band, and they'll go, okay, what key you doing that in? Well, it doesn't mean a key to your door. It's a scale. What scale are we playing in is what they want to know. Often, many people believe they cannot sing when in reality they're trying to sing a song in a key that's not suitable for their voice. Your voice itself is an instrument. And depending on what God gave you, some people can sing really high, sopranos, and others sing like bass and really low. So you can't expect somebody who sings low to be hitting a high F. I mean, you got to be a soprano to do that. I used to do it, but not anymore now that I'm old. We are each unique and our voices are our instruments. Each voice has a limit to how high or how low they can sing. Simply changing the key to a song will make all the difference in the world. Okay, lesson 2, scales and chords. This is where we're going to start talking about harmony. Now, we already said that these black keys are the same note. They sound exactly the same, but they're written differently so that people can tell that if you're going up the half step, it's C sharp, but if you're going from D down a half step, it's D flat. Got that? Because in music, we use all the keys. Not so much in banjolele, I noticed. A lot of people like to stick with easy key signatures, which don't have flats in them. As a pianist, and I was a worship leader at the church, I preferred playing in flats because I find they have a nice mellow sound to it. But to each his own. That means all the guitarists had to put capos on their guitars because they don't like to play in flats. So by using a capo, it would bring it down to the closest scale without a flat. Diatonic scales are made up of 7 notes in a very specific order of whole notes and half notes, as we saw before. Remember I said it's a half a note, half a step between a white and a black key. But if there's a black key in between it, then it's a whole step. So from C to D is a whole step. But C to C sharp is half a step. D to D flat is half a step. Then when we come to our special ones, E and F, never have a black key. They're always found right next to each other. So when you're counting your frets to figure out what note you're playing on your fretboard, always remember that F is going to be following E with no half step in between. Same with B and C. They're always together. See, even up here. The thing on with a piano is you look and you say, oh my God, 88 notes. How could I ever remember all of those? Well, it keeps repeating itself. They're all just sets of 12 if you count the black notes, or 7 if you count just the white notes. And then it repeats itself. See, here we're starting at C again. C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And then C would be next if we did a thing. Only 2 spots on the keyboard that don't have the black note between them is E and F, B and C. And that's the same on your fretboard. There's not a half step between there. Now, what is a scale? Scales are made up of all the notes that blend well, harmonize into a certain order. The order is always whole step, half step. Then whole step, half step. So you just add the extra whole step once you get near the end. You should memorize this. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step. If you're in the UK or Denmark, wherever you're from, it could be whole tone, half tone, whole tone, half tone. So W stands for whole step, H stands for half step. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step. Memorize that. Okay, I already showed you this. C to D is a whole step. D to E is a whole step. Why? Because we have these black keys in between. E to F is a half step because we're missing a black key in between visually. E to F has no black key. B to C, no black key. So those are half steps, but these are whole steps. Now, what if I'm at G and I have to go up a half a step? Well, then I'm going to go to G sharp, A flat, depending on what you call it. Same note. I'm going here. Okay, so you probably heard people playing instruments say, hey, what key are we in? And what they're really asking is, what scale are we using? What scale are we using? Once you know the scale you're using, you'll know which chords need to be played. You're going to know automatically, okay? If you tell me it's the key of C, I know it's going to be C, F, and G, because that's the 1, 4, and 5. But if I'm in the key of G, G's going to be my root chord. C will be my 4th, and D will be my 5th. You'll see it better as we go along. But just know it's always a 1, 4, and 5. If you ever see anything that says 8VA on it, that means you play it an octave higher. Remember we said octave means 8 notes higher. So if you're playing C down let's take this back. If I'm playing C down here and it says play 8VA, if there's a little thing up here that says 8VA, then I know to start playing it here, not here. 8 notes up. Okay? I don't think you're going to see that too much on your banjolele, though. We mentioned earlier, many songs are made up of 3 chords. These 3 chords are from the tonic or the root, the subdominant, which is a 4 chord, and the dominant, which is your 5th chord. In the key of C, that'll mean C is the tonic, F is the subdominant, and G is the dominant. The key of C is the only one that has no sharps and no flats in it. Why? Well, let's use our formula for making scales and see what we learned earlier. Whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So we see this in the key of C, right? If we go whole step, here's 1 whole step, half step between the E and the F. F to G, we can do a whole step, because there's a thing there. Whole step, there's your 3rd one. And now we don't have any black key here, so it's a half step. So there we can see with the C scale that it's whole step, half step, whole step, half step. No sharps, no flats needed in the key of C. That's why every time you learn, no matter what instrument you're on, the first chords are going to teach you are C, F, and G, so you don't have to worry about sharps and flats. Okay, lesson 3. We're continuing on the scales and chords. Now that we know this C scale, we know that the top 3 chords in this particular key are C, F, and G. The 1, 4, 5. Look at the other scales and we'll find out what their top chords are and put our scale formula into practice. For now, we're using the piano keyboard to show you how the scales work. Later, we will bring in the banjolele fretboard so you can see how it works there. We will also see how this all correlates with what's known as the circle of fifths. But that's our end goal. We'll do that at the end, because once you know how the scales are set together, then you'll understand why the circle of fifths is the way it is. And there's a lot of secrets with the circle of fifths that I haven't heard people talk about, and it bugs me. So hopefully you'll catch it easier. Okay, let's get to work on the 12 scales, because there's 12 notes. 12 scales, and see how our scale formula works out. Remember, it's always whole step, half step, whole step, half step. Hopefully I don't mess up. Okay, see, key of C we already did, right? Whole step, half step. Whole step, half step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's going to be your tonic or your root, your 4th, and your 5th. Now, if we move it up to the key of G, key of G, so we're going to start on the G. We do the whole thing again. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step. So, whole step, whole step, because we're starting on G, not F. Whole step, half step, whole step. Now we got to do a whole step here, but between E and F is only a half step. So how do we make it a whole step? We add in the other half step. 2 half steps. 2 half steps equal 1 whole step. So instead of going from E to F, we got to go from E to F sharp. F sharp. That'll bring us a whole step. but now I forgot where I was. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, right, F, and then F sharp to G, because we're coming off the black note now, is a half step. So there we see that the formula works out: whole step, half step, whole step, half step, and we see that it added F sharp there. So we know that in the key of G, that there's going to be one sharp, and it's going to be F. Key of D, whole step. Now we need another whole step, but we've got that dang E and F, so we got to go to the F sharp to make the second whole step. Whole step, half step, whole step. To get the whole step here, we got to go up to the C sharp and then down for a half step. So we've got the formula: whole step, half step. See, whole. I'm going to do it like this: whole, half, whole, half. So in the key of D, we have two sharps, and they are F and C. Okay, the key of A, we're going whole step. To do our whole step, we can't do it between two half steps. We have to go up to the C sharp. Whole step, half step. Whole step, we got to go up again to F sharp. Now we're at F sharp. Can you see this? We're at F. No, you can't even see that. Okay, so I did from A to B was a whole step. B to C is always a half step, so I have to add a half step and bring it up to C sharp. Then we got the half step, whole step, half step. Whole step. Next is supposed to be a whole step, but we go up to the F sharp to make it a whole step because we had to add the other half. And then we come down half. The last half step brings us to G. No, it doesn't. I lied. Key of A, one, whole step, half step. Whole step. We have to have another whole step. So that means we can't come down to G. We got to go to the G sharp to get the last whole step. Then we can come down to A. Got it? So we've got three sharps in the key of A, and they are F, C, G. This gets harder as we go up because we get a lot more sharps and flats. But I'm showing you how we get the chords that you need to play if you're playing in the key of A. Because if you're playing in the key of A and you decide to make your C a regular C and not a C sharp, it's not harmonic. Harmony comes by playing the proper notes that harmonize with each other. And a C will not harmonize because of the way the scales are set up. It's not going to harmonize on an A scale. So you have to make sure you got the C sharp in there. Key of E. Okay. So we start on the E, but obviously this is only half a step, so we got to go here for the whole step. And now we're using more black keys because we can't go back to the white key, or that's a half a step, and we have to take a whole step, right? Whole step, half step. So there's your one whole step. The next whole step is you're going to have to go to G sharp, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, you got to go to the C sharp, whole step, that means you're going to get the D sharp, half step is E. So you've got 4 sharps, F, C, G, D. This will all make sense later on. You know, you don't have to memorize this stuff. It's just good to show you why it is what it is, if that makes sense. Okay, key of B. We're getting fancy here. You know, you don't really play much in the keys of B and F sharp. You know, you're going to be playing mostly in C, G, D, the occasional A, sometimes E. But if you're in A, remember your E is going to be in there. The E chord's going to be in there. And a lot of times F, B flat. I've seen mostly, though, G's, D's, and C's, to be honest with you, because they don't like to use a lot of flats and sharps in playing with strings, you know. Piano is a different story. Okay, key of B. Okay, so we're starting at B. B to C, right away we have the problem because it's a half, so we have to go to C sharp, whole step, that's a D sharp, half step. Now we got to go a whole step, so from E to F is only half, so we got to go up to F sharp again, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Got it? How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 sharps. I put it in this order because I'll show you a little thing later. You know, because here's a C sharp, D sharp, F sharp, but I like to put them in the order that they're going to appear in the key signature. Like a key signature, I don't know if you've seen it, but if you're playing, okay, say here, Moonlight, Midnight, okay? You see the treble sign, and then you'll see 3 sharps. It's going to be F, C, G. So we're in the key of A, and sure enough, A is our first chord. Okay, F sharp. This is getting tricky because we got a lot of sharps coming here. Okay, so we're starting on F sharp itself, right here. So, whole step, so that's G sharp. F sharp, obviously, is sharp because we're starting F sharp. Whole step, half step brings us to the B. Now we got to go whole step again, but remember between B and C it's always a half step, so we have to add another half to get to the C. Whole step, half step. Whole step, whole step. Now to do a whole step, it's 2 half steps, right? So here here's a half step and a half step, and that gives us our whole step, but that doesn't make sense at all. Hold on. Whole step, half step. Whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But there's 6. 1, 12 goes down. There should be an E. Okay. And like I said, once you start getting up there, it gets more complicated. Okay, let's get into our flats now. Works the same way. Wholesale, whole step, half step. So if we're starting on F, F to G, whole step, then we're doing a half step, so you got your B flat. Then we can't go to B because we got to do a whole step. So we go C, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So there's only one flat in the key of F, and that's a B, B flat. Key of B flat. Okay, starting at the B flat, whole step. This is only a half step, so we have to do another half step. So we're going right here for a whole step, whole step. Half step is E flat. Now we got to go for a whole step. So that means we're going to go over to the F because E's only a half step. Whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, B flat. So we've got 2 flats, B flat and E flat. I know this is boring for you, but I want you to see why it works out the way it does. Okay, we're almost finished. Yeah, 2 more pages. E flat. So if we're starting here, whole step, it's half and half, so that brings us here, right? Whole step, half step, A flat, whole step, B flat, whole step brings us to C. Hold on. Whole step. Am I starting E? Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So we've got 3 flats. B flat, E flat, and A flat. Okay, I think you've got it now, right? That why we have to have the whole steps and half steps. So I'm not gonna do any more. Unless if you need me to, then let me know. Okay, moving on. We're going to talk about chords and harmony. This is why it's important to know what chords go into a key signature in the song you're playing, so that you'll know whether you have to hit a C sharp or an F sharp or a B flat, or what notes are going to actually harmonize in that key. I wrote this: the beauty of music lies within the integral balance of rhythm, melody, harmony, and passion. We know the top 3 chords in the key of C are C, F, and G, which are the 1, 4, 5 chords. Based on the key signature or scale of the song, we can know what the major chords always are. They're always the 1, 4, and 5. So if we go back to our pages, okay, say the key of F, okay? Can you see this? We did this already. In the key of F, this is your 1, 2, B flat is going to be your fourth, and C is going to be your fifth. But we'll see that more on the thing. Numbers 2, 3, and 6 are always, always, always minor chords. Okay, so here's a nice little sheet for you. It's the major chords in all keys. Okay, so it's based on your scales that we just went through. So we remember in the key of C, it was C was your root, F was your fourth, G is your fifth. I told you before that if you use the seventh chord, it's usually in there to bring you back to the first. So what they'll do is they'll add an extra note, the seventh note, but it's always 2 half steps down from your octave. So C wouldn't be C, it would be B flat, and G would be F. But you've got the chart now, so you can tell from here. Okay, so in the key of G, we have G, C, and D. Those are our chords for the key of G. Yes, you got to learn how to play them, but those are the chords you'll be using. In the key of D, D, G, and A. A is A, D, and E. E, E, A, B, B, E, F sharp. So this is your cheat sheet to tell you what chords you need to be playing for that key. I would try and memorize. You're probably going to be staying up around here. Maybe you'll get to an E, but that's probably most of the songs for banjolele are usually in those keys. If you go into mandolin, well, you might get the B because Bill Monroe used to sing real high. But usually these are your main scales that you have to concentrate on. Okay, minor chords. Like I said, 1, 4, and 5. 1, 4, and 5 that we just looked at are always major chords. Minor chords are 2, 3, and 6. Now these can be thrown in the song to add, in the chord progression, to add some drama, maybe is the word. Because a minor chord always sounds like a sad chord. If you're playing in major chords, it's going to be a happier song, like, oh, happy day that filled my soul, you know. But if you're playing in a minor key, then you're going to get more like, you are my hiding place, you always fill my heart with songs of deliverance. So you hear how it's more sad, more anyways, it's not a happy sharp tone like your major chord, because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be going down half a step on your from a major to a minor. The third note is, the middle note is always brought down half a step, but we'll get into that later. So in key signatures, yes, you may have just C, F, and G, but sometimes you'll get the minor chords. I don't know if I have any songs. I know I got lots of songs with minor chords in it, but do I have any songs close by in this book? I don't think so. This is a Bluegrass fake book, by the way, but it's made for mandolin because I also play mandolin. What am I looking for? Minors. You see, you're not going to find it much in oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, so we take this hobo song. I don't know what, I've never heard of it before. But it says we're in the key of G. And we start on a G. But then you see we go into E minor. Then C, which is C is a full chord, not a minor chord, major chord. Then we go to a minor chord, which is A minor. Then we go to F, which is a major chord, and then we go to A minor, which is a minor chord. So you'll have major and minor in some songs, and but your main chords will be G, C, and D, because it's in the key of G. So you see G's, C's, D's down here, G, G. So yeah, so you do even get minors in some songs, but most of them are major chords. Okay, that's it for that. So I'm just telling you about minor chords, that you are going to encounter them, but you'll learn how to play them anyways. Okay. How chords are formed. Remember the lucky number 7? We're going to use it again to form the chords. To form any chord, you take the root and you add 4 steps, 4 half steps, and then 3 half steps. So it comes to 7 half steps altogether. So if we're going from, I got my papers everywhere now. Let's go back to our first one here. Okay, so I said 4 half steps and 3 half steps, which makes 7. Okay, so if we're on the key of C, C is our root, our number 1. Remember, we already said that. Now we got to go 4 half steps to get the second note of that chord. How to make a chord. This is what we're working on. Chords now. Chords, because you already learned this scale, so now you can learn the chords. 4 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means E is going to be your second note. C is your first note. E is your second note. Then we go 1, 1. Remember, this is a half step. 1, 2, 3. So G, C, E, G are the notes that make your C chord. Now a chord is just 3 or more notes, usually 3, at least 3, that harmonize together. So if you're ever playing a song and you have a C note, and you say, well, what notes can I, what can I play that'll harmonize with that? Well, you'll know that an E and a G will fit the bill. You don't want to put in an F. That's a number 4. It's not in the chord. It'll sound dissonant. You want harmony. Harmony is C, E, G. You notice it's different than the main chords of your song, which were C, F, and G, because we're not talking about main chords. We're talking how to make one individual chord. So C, E, G. So you take the 4 half steps and 3 half steps equals 7. So for the chord of C, we saw 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. If we want to add a 7th chord, then we add another 3. Okay, so if we're at G, we go 1, 2, 3, and that brings us to B flat. And that's why there's a B flat on that paper I showed you as the 7th. Or, like I said before, you can just minus a whole step from your octave. So C7 would be 1 whole step below C, which would bring you to B flat, because between C and B, there's only half a step. In every major scale, we have 3 major chords, 3 minor chords, and sometimes a flat 7th on the 5th note. So in the key of C, we might find a G7. That's a flatted 7th. That's what that means, this little piece here. Okay, flat 7th. So in the key of C, we have C, E, G, chord notes. If you want to make the 7th, the flat 7th on the G, then it would be C, E, G, B flat. That's the 7th. B flat is the 7th of C. I gave you the chord names here. C, F, and G. That's number 1, 4, and 5 that we were talking about. Remember, on the scale, those are the chord names. But how you form the chord is the chord notes, and we already saw that's 3 half steps, 4 half steps, and 3 half steps. And if you want to get to the 7th, you add another 3 half steps. But it's all laid out for you here. Just memorize it. C, E, G is the key of, is the chord for C. F chord is F, A, C. G chord is G, B, D. I used to make little cards, flashcards for my kids, students, and would play like memory with it. But these guys are older, so you could just do your memory, you know, like, okay, C chord, what's C chord? C, E, G, and then you bring the paper down and you see, yes, it's C, E, G. F chord, F, A, C, yes, it's F, A, C. G chord, G, B, D. My kids used to like that, G, B, D, they like saying that, I don't know why, G, B, D. So they always remember the G chord because it's G, B, D. And so that's a good way to memorize, is definitely get your major chord notes, because as you move on in your music, you know, you're going to learn that you don't have to play the C chord on the 4th fret of the bottom string. You might be at a place where you can improvise. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little bit about inversions. I wasn't going to, but since we're talking about the improvising. Okay, so the C chord, we said, is C, E, G. But there are what's called inversions. Inversions. And all that means is, instead of starting on the C, this is your root position. Root position. Always. The 1st, 3rd, and 5th. C, E, G. But then, if you're writing music, the next inversion, the first inversion would be, we're going to start on the E instead of the C. So, to invert it, we would go E, G, C. That's your first inversion. See, because we're starting on the 2nd note. So if I play E, G, C, I'm still playing a C chord. It's just a different spot that I'm playing it. My 2nd inversion would be, since I started on the E, now I have to start on G, G, C, E. See, so all we've done is we've just moved it up. So that's why sometimes you'll see something like C over G. And you say, what the heck is that? That chord means it's a C chord, but they want you to do it over the G bass. So you'd be doing the 2nd inversion, G, C, E. Got it? Yes, yeah. I know you don't have it until you see it, but just so you know, when you see C over G, what they're telling you is play the C chord, but they want it in starting with the G note instead of the C note, you can still play just C. Okay, if you see this and you say, oh, I don't want to get involved with that G, it'll still sound fine. Okay, because it's still the same chord, just a different arrangement. Okay, so don't get too worried about that. Same with if you see, you know, a seventh note, okay, like G7. When you're first starting out and you don't want to remember what that seventh note is, you can just play the G chord and it'll sound fine. It won't sound as full and lovely as if you added that fourth 7, but it'll be fine for beginners, okay? Okay, back on here now. Minor chords in the key of C. Remember we did the major chords, which are C, F, and G. The minor chords then are D minor. Hold on, let me go back to that page again. Go back to this page. Remember we said 1, 4, and 5 are your major chords, and anything else, 2, 3, and 6 will always be minor, always. So that's why we have here C, F, and G as our major chords and how they're formed. Memorize the note names for them. Minor keys, D minor. So D, it would a D chord, do I have D here? No. A D chord would normally be D, F sharp, and A. But because I told you the minor chords go down half a step on the middle one. So instead of F sharp, you're playing F. If this is C, E, and G, okay, say they wanted a C minor instead of a C major. It's not going to be in the key of C, but if they want a C minor, you take the middle note and bring it down half a step. So C minor would be C, E flat, and G. F minor would be, instead of F, A, C, it would be F, A flat, and C. G minor wouldn't be G, B, D, because you're going to bring the middle note down a flat. G, B flat, D. So that's why D minor is D, F, A, but like a real D chord, as we saw in our scale, is D, F sharp, A. But because it's a minor, we're bringing that middle note down a half step. E minor is E, G, B. Now if this was E major, it would be E, G sharp, and B. A minor is A, C, and E, but it would be A, C sharp, and E. See, because we're bringing the middle note down. Okay, here's another cheat sheet for minor and major chords. I already said minors are made by lowering the middle note half a step. So your main chord is C, E, G, but your C minor chord is C, E flat, G. Your major chord is G, B, D. Your G minor chord is G, B flat, D. D is D, F sharp, A. D minor is D, F, A, because we're bringing down that, it's always the middle notes. The middle notes that go down half a step. This page is probably even better for you to memorize your chords, because then you can go, okay, the key of C, you see it? Key of C. What are the notes for the key of C? The notes I need to make that chord. I need to have a C, E, and G. C, E, and G. Key of G, chord of G. The chord itself is made by playing G, B, and D. Now you can play all these together. Most of the time we do when we're on banjolele, because that's what a strum is. You're playing right from the top down to the bottom on the 4 strings. On the piano, obviously I can play each chord individually as what's called arpeggio. You can do arpeggios. Is there 2 G's? I don't know. I'll do it 1 G. Might be 2. Arpeggio. Now the arpeggio is just the chord broken up. So I'm going, instead of going C, E, G, and going like on an organ, 1 note, boom, I can go da da da, da da da, da da da. So I'm C, E, G, G, B, D. I can play each chord, each note individually of the chord, and that will be an arpeggio. And then I tell you, you know, how to make a diminished or how to make augmented, but you're not going to encounter that very often, but it's there for you if you want to know how to do it. Okay, chords can be played with all notes together as in one strum, or they can be broken up into an arpeggio. So you can play the C chord in one strum, or you can play the notes individually going up and down the scale. That's like on your banjolele. You either push that 4th fret on the last string and strum the whole thing, or you can keep your finger there and just play each string individually. That would form an arpeggio. Oh, there are 2 G's in arpeggio. You see that here. So from the C chord, you would play C, E, G, C, G, E, C. If I'm playing the scale as an arpeggio. So I'm playing the 1, 3, 5, 8, and then I come back to the 5, 3. But, oh gosh, I don't have a banjo on me right now. Remember to get these notes, I said, what did I say? I said it's 4 half steps and then 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 is the 4 half steps is always your middle note of that chord. And the 7th, because I said 7, remember 4 plus 3, 7 half steps would equal your 5th or highest note on the scale. So if you were to look at, oh geez, can I reach this? Hold on a second. It's not a banjolele, but it's a ukulele I bought for my granddaughter. Okay, let's turn it around so you can see the fretboard. Okay, on a regular fretboard, you'd see these markings, right? This is usually on the 5th note, 7, 9, and then you'll see two double dots here. Whenever you see the 2 double dots, that's the 12th fret, and since there's only 12 notes in the chromatic scale, that means that when you're playing, the 12th fret is you're always starting over. This is upside down. Let me go this way. So, if I'm playing, if I want to do the arpeggio, right, I know it's 1, 2, 3, 4. This isn't in tune. That would be the 12th. It's not a good tuning, but I'm showing you that. 1, 2, 3, 4 is your middle note on the 4 half steps is your middle note on the banjolele. 7 is your highest note. And 12, which I believe was there, because there's no marking on this one. It's a cheap little $2 ukulele. So to play your C, instead of just playing here, you know, by pushing the 4th thing, it's really out of tune. I could go, okay, what note am I on? A, 4, C sharp. So you take your main note, God, this is awful. Your main note, the 4th, the 7th, and the 12th, then the 7th, and the 4th, and the thing, and there you got your arpeggio on your banjolele. 4th and 7th and 12th. So you're going C, E, G, C, G, E, C. So that's a nice little filler sometimes. We already talked about the inversions, right? It was C, E, G, and the first is E, G, C, and the second is G, C, E. Why isn't there a third? Because you'd be right back at C, E, G. So there's only 2 inversions. You've got your root, first, second. So although they're using the same notes, they are stacked differently in the notation. I don't really want to get into notation unless you want a lesson on that. If you want a lesson on notation, well, you're going to have to let me know, because that's going to be a lot more complex for you, because you'd have to study the manuscripts. Like you have to memorize where those notes are on the lines and staffs. So, but if you really want to read music, to learn how to read music, I can give you a lesson on that. Just let me know. Okay, I'll show you what I mean without notation. Okay, so we saw C, E, G, first inversion E, G, C, second inversion G, C, E. So I can't, you know, if we had a 3, 4, 5, so it would be C, E, G, E, G, C, G, C, E. Okay, that's on a, those where the notes would be. Okay, there's no third inversion, or it would be back to C, E, G, which would be just an octave higher, right? So it would be starting C here instead of C here. C, E, G. So we're right back, but octave, or 8 VA. Okay, let's bring the keyboard to the fretboard. The fretboard is also made up of half steps, just like on the piano. Okay, but there's no black keys to keep us on point, so it's a little harder. But we have to remember that each of these frets, this is a fret in case you didn't know, between each of these metal or plastic frets, this is fret 1, fret 2, and so on. I already told you that number 4, 4, 7, 12, we automatically get back to the octave, an octave above what we started out with. So anything over here, okay, if this is G, because we're on the G string, so this is going to be A. because it's one step, whole step away. And then this would be B. And then C would be right here if we had that extra thing, because we don't have, B and C are always together. E and F are always together. Okay, so we did the C scale, right? So it's C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now on the banjolele or any fretboard that you're using, doesn't, guitar or mandolin, violin, any stringed instrument, you're just going to have to know what your string names are, right? But since we're doing the C scale and we've got a C string here, we know that it's going to be whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Remember, so from G, that's going to be a G sharp. There's your black, half step. So if we want a whole step, here's our A. Whole step, whole step, whole step. Here's our B. If B's here, then this is going to be C. Why am I writing it on the wrong line? I wanted to do it on the C line. So whole step, half step. Now we got to go whole step, which is going to be D, whole step, E. Between E and F, there's never a black key. So and then we're back. I did something wrong. G, C. That's why, because I'm doing G. That's why. The G, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. C, whole step, half step. I hope that didn't confuse you, because that was really crappy. The E string, E. F always comes after E. I'll show you how to figure out the notes in the note, but this is not to scale. E, F, G, A, B. Always skip one, right? Because that's your half note, A, B. But between E and F and B and C, there's no half step. No half step. They're always beside each other. E and F, B and C. D. And then we're back at the 12th fret, which is your E starting again. But remember that there are sharps. So if you're trying to play the scale, you would play it differently than what you're using to, because E has F sharp, G sharp, because we're going whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Then we're going to go whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So get back to the thing. Oh, A. So this is, you can just do it like this. A sharp, B, C. Because there's no B sharp. C sharp, D. This way I'm filling in all the half steps. No E sharp. E and F are always together. Then go F sharp, G, G sharp, A. 12 is always the name of the string because you're one octave higher. So basically what you're doing is you're playing the scale. Each string is a scale. So you've got the G scale, C scale, E scale, A scale. Okay, so let's take some examples of this. What you see in the book is a chord, right? They're going to show you a chord. But in order to show you more clearly, we're going to flip the chord diagram to make it easier. I'm not going to go through all the chords, but these few will give you the information you need to form the chords. Sometimes a chord can be played in different positions, like I said before. That's because it can be played in different inversions. Okay, so we're taking this and we're going to flip it, right? And when we flip it, this is what it looks like. Okay, here's your C chord. Remember, this is your A string, so this is A sharp, B. And what comes after B? It's always C. So that's why this dot here is C. If you're going to play the C chord, you're going to put your finger right there. So what are we going to play when we strum this? We're going to be playing G, C, E, C. All of those, the C chord is made up of G, no, C, E, G. So all we're doing is adding an octave or another C. We could add any of these, but it's easier to just strum it right down, and you've got C, G, C, E, and C. We don't want the A in there. That's why we press the fret here to make it a C sound, because if we did A, it would be dissonant. We want harmony. Harmony is always playing the chords to the song. The D chord. A D chord is D, F sharp, A. Okay? G, G sharp, A. C, C sharp, D. E, F, F sharp. So if we play these three notes held down on the second fret, we're playing an A note, a D note, and an F sharp. We strum all the way down and we have another A, which fits into the chord, because the chord is D, F sharp, and A. So we can strum that one straight down also. That's why you see the dots on the fretboard where they are for a reason. They're not just, you know, it's fine to memorize your chords and where they are, but it's even better if you can say, oh, that's why I need to press these frets, because then you'll learn to do it automatically is the word. I don't know. You know, you're building memory in your brain to remember what notes belong in that chord. Okay, let's take the E chord. E chord. Let me see if I remember. E, G sharp, and B, I think. It's, I don't know, my brain's really bad. Let me get that paper. I'm getting old, I told you that, eh? Okay, let's get this paper back. The E chord, E, G sharp, and B. I was right. Okay, so let's look at it on the fretboard. Remember our fretboard is looking at the banjolele, but look, I'm trying to look at it this way for you instead of this way, which is the way they write it on the fret thing. If that makes sense. Okay, so we got G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. What will be next to the E will be an F. What will be next to the B? It'll be a C. Why? Because beside every B there's a C, and beside every E there's an F. Okay, the E string, E, F. Because beside every E there's an F. F, F sharp, G, G sharp. What do I need to make my E chord? E, G sharp, B. What do I have here? E, G sharp, B. And you wouldn't play, oh, I didn't do that one. A sharp. So this is going to be a B. So make sure your finger goes down there too to make it a B. Because if you just played all here, you're going to have B, C, a C sharp, and that ain't going to fit. Okay, so you have to, that's why you have the 3 here are in line. But you have to make sure you hit this one too. Otherwise, you're going to have dissonance. The other trick is just leave this off completely and don't play that string. That's an option. Because you've got your E, G sharp, and B. Got it? Got that trick? F chord. F, A, C. G, G sharp. A, C, C, C sharp. Well, D, D sharp. But we're not using this, right? E, F, E, because we're only putting two notes down. So we're playing the C open. E, F. So we've got the F. We've got the A, we've got the C, and with the bottom string we have another A, which will fit with the FAC. This is why your dots are where they are on the chord chart, because you're making the chord, the proper chord, instead of doing it on a piano, C, E, G, C, G, E, C. You're doing it all in one C, E, G strum. Comprenez-vous? You understand? G chord. Well, G is obviously G. We don't have to do anything with that one. G, B, G, B, D. Remember I told you the kids really liked that one. G, B, D. G, B, D. Like Jibbity Cricket. Okay, so G we play open. C, C sharp, D. E, F always before the E, always after the E, F sharp, G, A sharp, B. So what do we have here? We've got G, we got a B, we got a D, G, B, D, G. Here's another G. G, B, D, G. And that'll give you your G chord. So now I'm hoping you understand why we have fret symbols, chord symbols. The chord symbols represent the notes of the chord you're playing. A. Okay, so we got G, so it's going to be G sharp, A. A is going to be the second string from the G, right? Because it's a whole step. C, this is going to be a C sharp, then E and A. Now an A chord is A, C sharp, and E. Do we have it? Yes. A, C sharp, E. And then we just throw an extra A in there to complete the strum pattern. But you could leave it out, but you may as well play it. It's just going to give you another octave of the A. It's not going to hurt. It's going to be more a full sound. B chord, okay, this one's a little trickier. Let me find my paper. B, D sharp, F sharp. G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. F is always after E, so there's an F sharp here. You got that, right? Because we're going by half steps. A sharp, B. So we got B, D sharp, B, D sharp, F sharp, and another B. Does that make sense? You might have to go through this again slowly. I've made the odd mistake, but we try not to. This stuff I'm teaching you is not a mistake. Okay, now if the string has an X on it, let's say this one. Say this had an X here. That means don't play that string. You play the other three, but you leave that string out. But you're not going to see that often. And if it's got an O, it means play it, open, open, open. See, the little O's means strike the string even though you're not hitting a fret. If you see the X, that means don't play that string at all, mute it. Okay, now bringing it all together. Do I have... I know I have it. I just can't see it. Oh, come on, Sharon. Oh, here it is. Ruler. Okay, so you're going to take a circle. We're going to bring it all together in what's called the circle of fifths, okay? So here's a circle. I'm going to draw a line down here, down the middle. So this is our 12 o'clock, or 0 standpoint. C is always here. Then we have, I'm just trying to say, where should I put the time? 1. Okay, 3 is going to be here, so 2's there, 3. This is going to be your 6, 4, 5. You got that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This half of the clock we're working on first. Now, circle of fifths, that means that when we go from one note to the next, it's going to be a fifth apart. Okay, so from C, a fifth up, you don't have to count it. I'm telling you what it is. C is G. From G up 5 is D. D up 5 is A. Better double check on my thing, but yeah. Then we have E. Then we have B. Then we have F sharp or G flat. Because remember, they're enharmonic. So your F sharp scale is going to be the exact same as your G flat, except you're going to be calling them flats instead of sharps. Now the cool thing about this, the cool thing about this is that it also tells you that G gets 1 sharp, D gets 2 sharps, A gets 3 sharps, E gets 4 sharps, B gets 5 sharps, F gets 6 sharps. See, the time tells you what the sharps are. Now there's an order of sharps. I should tell you this. Order of sharps. F, C. This is the order of your sharps. F, C, G, D, A, E, B. If you want to, what's the name of it? A mnemonic? I don't know what the name of it is. But if you want a little riddle to remember it. Father. Charles. Goes. Down. And ends battle. That's your order of sharps. It always starts here, going that way. So G has 1 sharp, it's going to be F. D has 2 sharps, it's going to be F and C. A has 3 sharps, it's going to be F, C, and G. E has 4 sharps, F, C, G, D. B has 5 sharps, F, C, G, D, A. F sharp has 6 sharps, F, C, G, D, A, E. Father Charles goes down. Father Charles goes down and ends battle. Now, on the other side, we go, it's not going to go 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We're going to go backwards again. 1 is F. 3 is E flat. 2 is B flat. Now, going this way, we're going in fourths. Fourths, not force. Fourths. Oh, learn to spell, girl. Fourths. We're going in fourths. Back. Circle of fifths going right is always in fifths. Going back, it's in fourths. This will make it easier for you. A flat, A flat, D flat. Now D flat can also be C sharp. You're not going to see it that often though, really. In piano I play G flat quite often, but not F sharp so much. It depends on the songs you're learning. Okay, now the good thing is if this is fourth and this is fifth, well, here's the trick. If I'm in the key of C, do I have to memorize my fourth and fifth, my dominant and subdominant chords for that scale? No, because they're right here. F is going to be my fourth. G is going to be my fifth. So if I have the key of C, I'm going to have C, F, and G. Okay, well, what if I start in the key of A? Say I'm down here. Well, going back goes fourths, right? Going that way. That way is fourths. This way is fifths. So, my fourth is going to be, A is my root, D is my fourth, and E is my fifth. So I don't have to memorize those scales. If somebody says, okay, we're going to play in the key of A, and you have the music in the key of C, and then you go, oh my goodness, I'm not going to be playing C, F, and G. What am I going to be playing? You're going to be playing A, D, and E. 1, 4, 5. That's why that knowing the numbers helps in the Nashville number system. You'll always know what your 1, 4, and 5 is, but we'll show you how to transpose it on another paper. But this can help you to transpose, because you know your fourth is always, if I'm at B, my fourth is going to be E, and my fifth is going to be F sharp. On the F, I'm going fourths go this way. So B flat will be my fourth, and C on the right, because that way is the fifths. So the key of F, I know my chords are going to be F, B flat, and C. If I'm in A flat, I know my chords are going to be A flat, D flat, and E flat. How many flats are in the key of E flat? There's 3. What are the chords going to be? Actually, the flats go in the opposite direction of the sharps. Order of flats goes, okay, so sharps go this way, flats go that way. Okay, so it's a little different, but almost the same. Battle ends, and down goes Charles' father. Now there's another trick. If I'm in the key of G, and there's 1 sharp, what's that sharp going to be? It says my first sharp's going to be F. So I go back to here, and I get F for 1 sharp. D, the key of D has 2 sharps. So what are going to be my 2 sharps? F and C. F and C. 3 sharps at A. F, C, G. Father Charles goes. E, 4. F, C, G, D. Father Charles goes down. Comes on through, you understand? Same is true on the opposite side. If I have A flat and I have 4 flats, it's going to be flats. Battle ends and down. But these are all going to be flats now, right? Because we're going down. So those will be your flats. Do you understand? Is there anything else I have to tell you about that? By having a circle of fifths, you always know where your fourth and your fifths are. Fourth, fifth. So you don't have to memorize. You have to memorize. You should memorize the chord structure itself. Like C is C, E, G. F is F, A, C. G is G, B, D. But the chords that you're going to find in your song key are going to be 1, 4, 5. I hope that made sense. Okay, here's one. Actually, I didn't ask permission, but it was there. And it says his name on it. Got a ukulele. He's a great guy if you want to look up. Oh, he's always teaching stuff. And ukulele, but he has some banjolele sometimes. Okay, now we're talking about here. Here's your C at 0, right? I said the 2, 3, and 6 are always minor chords. Now there's a thing called a relative minor. What that means is they share the same scale. So the key of C has no sharps or flats, right? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And the relative minor is always the sixth note. So A minor is relative of the C chord. E minor is relative of the G scale, not chord, scale. B minor is a relative to the D scale. F sharp minor is a relative. Why are they called relatives? Well, both the key of C and A minor have no sharps. So you'll see your a thing, you know, your thing, and say 4, 4 or whatever. If there's no sharps there, then you know you're in the key of C. But what if the first, it can start with A minor. A minor will have the same key signature as C. E minor will have the same key signature as G. G has 1 sharp, E minor has 1 sharp, etc., etc., etc. Okay, how to transpose your song. Bonus material. Okay, oh wow, only 42 minutes, so it's not even an hour. Our voices are also instruments, and sometimes people think that they cannot sing, when in reality, it's the song's range that is too high or too low. In order to correct the problem, we need to transpose the song into a key that will support our voice, our instrument. Transposing can also be used if you find the chords in a particular song are difficult for you to fret. By lowering the key or making it higher, it may help. Like I hear everyone says they hate the dreaded E chord, but I change the key and then it'll be F, you know. Just, yeah. So, how does it work? If the song is in the key of C and you want to change it, say, to the key of G, here's how you do it. C, remember I said know your numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7 notes in the key of C are C, D, E, F, G, A, B. If I want to change it to the key of G, well, let's put the scale of G down there. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. Right? Because there's 1 sharp. So, for every 1, 4, and 5 are usually your main chords, right? We said that already. So if I have a C, I just change it to a G. If I have an F, I change it to a C. And if I have a G, I change it to a D. Got that? Now these are always minors. So if they do show up, say you see a D minor, it's going to be an A minor. E minor will be B minor, and A minor will be E minor. Did you catch that? Okay, so here's your big, easy transposing chart. Easy. Here's all your keys. I put them in the order of sharps and flats. So sharps are going up, flats are going down. So we always start with C. Okay? C. Here, let's take our C. So our first root is C. Second is a D, but you know that's going to be minor. 3 is minor. 4 is F. 5 is G, 6 is a minor. Now, if we want to change that, we're in the key of C, and we have to go all the way up to the A. Say it's like way too low, and we want to go up to the A, the key of A. Then our C becomes what? The root changes to A. The fourth, all of our F's will now be D's. All of our G's will now be E's. You understand? C will change to A. If C changes to A, then F will change to D, and G will change to E. If I want to change the song from C to E flat, well, E flat is the root, so C changes to E flat. F changes to A flat. G changes to B flat. You understand? So we can change it to any key we want simply by changing the position of the chord. But it's going to be the 1, 4, and 5. So instead of trying to remember, oh, 1, 4, and 5, you use a cheat sheet. Wish I could talk. Cheat sheet, and it'll show you what the 1, 4, and 5 are. They're highlighted in yellow. So that's for sure you're going to have the 3 chords in every song. Well, I think there's one note. Some of them might have one chord. I don't know. But most songs have at least 3 chords. And I mean, face it, if I'm in C and they tell me to play E minor, well, what the heck am I going to do? Well, if I'm changing it to the key of A, then I'll go up to C sharp minor. Comes out too? You understand that? My D minor would become a B minor. These are all minors, 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 minors. And remember, I already told you that your 6, can you see that? 6 is always a minor, relative minor scale. So I could have the C key, same key signature saying there's no sharps or flats for C, but I might be playing A minor, D minor, E minor. Because I'm playing the same scale, but it's relative minor. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's do a harder one. Let's transpose G flat to E. Okay, that's like way up. Okay, G flat is my root. So if I'm moving it to E, what's it going to be? E, obviously, the root. My fourth is a C flat, and if I'm in the G flat scale, it's going to move up to an A. Got it? You saw that? D flat is going to move up to a B because my 1, 4, and 5 are just being interchanged with the 1, 4, and 5 of the different key. I hope that makes sense, because this chart's really going to help you. You know, because some people, you know, if you have a guitar, a lot of people use capos, but it's kind of tricky on a banjolele or a ukulele or a small neck instrument. So if you can just keep this handy, keep this really handy, you're going to love me one day, and you'll see all this stuff, and you'll say, oh, wow, big difference. Okay, chord progressions. We said we were going to talk about that at the very end. What I'm about to share with you generally works on most songs. This will help you to know where the next chord is going to once you start to play a song. There's a difference, always a difference between a major and a minor chord. 1, 4, and 5 are always the major. 2, 3, and 6 are always the minor. So remember that when you're transposing. Yeah. The first chord of the song can be any chord. So say I start on C. Okay, the next chord could be, say I go to A minor. Just to, I'm making it harder than it has to be. It's usually the root chord in the song is the first chord, and after that, it'll go to any chord. Now, if I went to A minor, remember I just told you that's your 6. So, if you're writing a song, or if you're just trying to figure out how to do this, I'm still new to this, but okay, so the 1 chord, the C, can go anywhere. It can go A minor, G, wherever they want to put it. But this is, how is it going to progress, the song? Usually, because like if you're playing by ear, which is real tough, you're going to want to know where's the group going. So if they went from 1 to any key, they can go anywhere. Say they went to the 6, A minor. Okay, well 6 here says 6 goes to 2. So 2 would be D minor. Where does the 2 go? 2 usually goes to 5, 7, which would be a G7. And I said before, usually when you have a 7, it usually brings you home, because that added flat note brings a little bit of tension, and you're going to want to ease that tension by bringing it back to its root, its home. So if you have a 5, 7 or a 5, 7, it's always going to go back to the mothership, the root note. So here's an example of a chord progression. C, and it went to the 6. Let me try this over here. Okay, so we went from C. Let's do it a little different, because you saw that one. C, and if we go to G, say we go to G, which is the 5th. Now we can go back to C. 5 usually is the 7th. Not always, but usually is the 7th. And it always, whenever you see the 7th, it's always going to bring you back to the root note. Okay, so now I'm at C again. So if I'm at the root, I can go anywhere. Let's go back to the 6th here, which was A minor. A minor is going to go to a 2, which would bring us to D minor. 2 always brings you the 5, 7. So that's going to give me G7, 5, 7, which always brings you home. 5, 7 always brings you home back to 1. So it sounds a little complicated, but it's handy to know. It's handy to know. It's not something I use all the time, because I don't really get into chord progressions. I just play what's there, you know. But it might help you to keep it handy, depending on what you're doing with your music. Okay, in closing, I'd like to take the time to thank you all for taking the course. I hope I made things easier for you and not confused you in any way. I have a habit of doing that sometimes. If you have any questions, you can always reach me in the Banjolele group, obviously Sharon Myers. If you highlight my name, you know, if you type it in and then it'll come up and you click and it'll highlight and send me a notification that you asked something. It will show up in my notification panel. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, as long as I'm around. I'm usually on a lot of times because I have very bad health problems. So I spend most of my time on this stupid computer or coloring. Okay, hopefully what you have learned can be transferred to any fretted instrument you might want to take up in the future. You want to take up guitar, mandolin, violin, a bass, anything, any stringed instrument. This information is universal. You can use it on any instrument as long as you know the name of the string that you're working on, because some instruments are stringed differently than others. The ukulele and banjolele stringed exactly the same, G, C, E, A. But, you know, if you're going to get into guitar, then it's different. But as long as you know the name of the string, you know that each fret is 1/2 step. You also know that to make the scale is whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So you'll be able to figure out the sharps and the flats. But just look at your circle of fifths here. This can save your life. Well, not quite, but it's really good to have. I used to have a watch, it doesn't work anymore, that had the circle of fifths on it. So I would just have to look at my wrist, and I could say, oh yeah, okay, that's 2 sharps. You know, makes it easier. Okay, hopefully you've learned here you can it can be transferred to any fretted instrument. As long as you know the name of the string, you can easily figure out where the notes are on the fretboard by using our formula. Remember that each fret equals 1/2 step, and you'll be fine. Also remember that between E and F and B and C, there's no black notes, so that's always a 1/2 step. Always, always right next to each other on the fretboard. I hope you enjoyed the course. If I can help you in any other way, let me know. I've heard some might be interested in learning notation, but that's going to be, it's doable. Took me years, you know, and you'd have to really memorize the notes to be able to see them and know what they are, identify on which staff and line they're on. So it's a little more complicated, but the good thing is then you can pick up any book. Where's my book gone? There it is. The fake book. I just got a new mandolin. That's why I got a new mandolin bluegrass book. Okay, so here I can read it, right? It's D, B, 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 A. Now look at here though. Remember this is, I said it's a B, and the chord is a G. Well, why does a G chord go well with a B? Because I told you the chord of G is GBD. So you could play any D's, G's, or B's, GBD, and harmonize it with the G chord. Comprends-tu? You understand that? Okay, now, if I go down here, you see the chord's going to change, because here we're at G, G, G. So that all fits with the G chord. That all fits with the G chord. But now we go to an A. Well, A doesn't fit in with the G chord. G chord is GBD. But if I'm playing in the key of G, which I am, because it tells me that there's 1 sharp. So if I'm in the key of G, my chords are going to be G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, 1, 4, 5. So my chords are going to be G, C, and D. Now it could also be A minor, B minor, E minor. So let's see. So we're going to an A note. We've got an A note here, but we've got the G is going to sound terrible with it because it's dissonant. So we have to change the chord to match and make harmony with the note. So if I have an A, remember my chords are G, which is G, B, D. That's very lousy writing. D is D, F sharp, and A. Oh yeah, and my C is C, E, G. Now, if I have an A note, let's look at the chords. Which chord is going to fit in that? Well, there's no A note in G. It's G, B, D. There's no A note in C, C, E, G. So if I want to harmonize my A note, I would take the D chord because it's D, F sharp, A. You understand? So now we've got two A's, A, G. Now we're going up to a B. Well, B ain't going to fit. B ain't going to fit with the D chord anymore because there's no B in D. It's D, F sharp, A. So we're going to have to harmonize by adding the G chord, G, B, D, because there's the B. Comprends-tu? Okay, so B, D, E, D, D. Okay, let's just keep going. Sometimes if it's a fast note like smoky sky, it's the smoky here is an A, but you don't have to change the chord because you're going by it so quickly and you're going right back to another G. So you don't have to change it until, you know, it's going to be more necessary. Mountains, and I never get to these A's. A, G. So now because there's 3 A's, it's going to be pretty noticeable if you still got that G going because there's no A in G. So we have to change it to D. D, F sharp, A. Do you understand? A, G, B, D, B, A, G, and then they're going to change it to the G as your end. You're ending on the root. You're ending on the root just like you started on the root. You understand? There's so many songs in here. I don't know a lot of bluegrass, so that's why I had to buy the book. Okay, this one's a common one, if you can see it. I'll Fly Away. Now this is in the key of G again. So our chords are G, C, and D, right? 1, 4, and 5. But once we get to the A's, you see, if you know your music, you'll know that we're going into A here with some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll, the chord change, C. Even though it's a G note, G could either be, the note G could either be harmonized with a G, B, D, or it could be harmonized with the C because we got C, E, G. we got G in both of those chords. So the note is going to harmonize with the chord, but you'll find that if you try the G chord, it's not going to sound as nice as the C. Comprends-tu? Because after you're going into the E's, you see G, E, which is part of the C chord. See? G, E. C, G, E are all part of the C chord. Some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away back to G, to a home on God's celestial shore. Then we're going down to the A's. Fly, so they moved it to a D because there's an A in it. Then back to G. Way, because we're at G. I know you don't know notation, so it might be over your head, but I'm trying to tell you that there's a reason that the chord is there with that particular note, because that note is part of the chord, and that's how you do harmony. Okay, so that's it for today. I wish you all the best. Hopefully you have a better understanding of why music works the way it does, and you can always get in touch with me at the Banjolele Only course. Thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to download the PDF file so you can follow along. Bye.